All right. If um, no one has anything else, we may as well just kick into it. Reviewing action items would be the first thing. I don't know why that's a sub bullet. Maybe that was an action item at one point. I had an action item that I definitely didn't do, which was see if we could revive the S3 resource integration tests and the AWS accounts for the CFF. Um, I was kind of distracted by the other updates that I have on the infrastructure migration and things to the CF, which are in a pretty good state, and we have some interesting things to talk about on that front. But I will definitely do that this time around because we have other things we're talking about with cloud account consolidation cost focus as CFF takes a look at its cloud usage as a whole. This is like a top of mind topic in general. Um, about where do we have accounts? How are they being used? And I think it's reasonable that we'd be able to use the S3 one for integration tests because that will not be an expensive set of integration tests because idiot S3 is cheap-ish as long as you don't store a lot. As long as you use a little amount, which is what this would do, it's not a lot.
Mhm.
So I will definitely follow up on that. But I can slide into the second thing, which is project integration, infrastructure migration to CF. That should have more than one F. Um, that is now complete. So the Concourse GCP project is in the CFF GCP accounts. It didn't blow up, which it wasn't supposed to, but I was admittedly like, I don't know, Google, can you do this magic? And it turns out it can, which makes sense, but still was a little like uh, nervous. So that is in there. That means as we do some of the next things that we plan on doing, which is, or plan on proposing, which is consolidating the number of concourses and things we have in the CFF to reduce overhead and whatnot. We're intending to add more administrators, right, that are capable of managing that concourse in a shared way. That also, so that's ancillary, but it's related, aka more people that have a sufficient maintainership role in the project or in the administration of that concourse instance will get appropriate access and can get appropriate access to the infrastructure underlying that, not just the GitOps aspects of it. Um, so I'm excited about that. Um, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of
and
the big.
probably direct from my side, how do you see this in a time frame manner? Let's say, I'm not sure how much work is left to be done on this, and yeah, overall, um, how do you see it as going forward in the time when we can start adding more people there? I mean, overall at the moment,
Which part?
when
There's two pieces here, right? There's one is like there's a way by which we can now, and I think we have this is another thing we need to figure out how to divide the areas or groups or something within concourse the concourse working group, which
Mhm.
is like we have contributors, but then also like we don't want every contributor to have
Yeah.
the the concourse GCP project access, right? Like that is a head above the amount of access we want there. The the moment of like Taylor and I are co-tech leads, like I at least can and should get Taylor access to the CFF, and I can do that like nowish. I just need to confirm on their side like what types of personal, like essentially like what kinds of credentials he should be using as part of that. But bar it's just that's the quick question, and beyond that, I can do that. There's a second
Mhm.
piece which is like that more people within concourse, but then also the broader like um timeline for consolidating on a single concourse. Which one of those were you trying to ask more about, or both? The answer can
More
be
or less on the first part,
okay.
specifically around the access one. Yeah.
Um, I don't know. The answer is like we can kind of figure that out. We need to make
Mhm.
there's a bit of self-determination here and like what's rational about how
Yeah.
many people we permission into that. particular space because I still think it's a good idea. And this is something we did historically, right? With concourses, we had
Hmm.
people that can do the pipeline work, but still couldn't get to the infrastructure. I still think that isn't that's a reasonable differentiation to still have between
Hmm.
certain things. We definitely need more folks on the infrastructure, but we don't want all those folks that administrate those things. So I think we can talk about that. Let's put it in like written form here on proposals and whatnot. But like, I think there should still be um, some of that mapping. What I'd like to see is kind of like how we want to map that into the group's description or areas.
Yeah.
Sorry, the areas within our group, so that when more of the automation comes online, we can have that managed GitHub teams, and those GitHub teams can then be our access control permissions or whatnot to whatever automates that access. Concourse had a different way of doing it in the past, and uh, given our move to the CFF, we'll have to kind of like split the difference on what it used to do versus what it should do now, given the way that structure has shifted or
Got it.
shifting.
Thanks. Thanks.
Colin, you got your hand up?
Yeah, so my question is, by more people involved in the infrastructure, you mean just by browsing so far because we didn't have much access in the repositories. I know that on GCP there are a lot of integration testing through Terraform and some other stuff provisions. So, what do you mean? So since the most of the stuff are automated, how do you? Why do you require additional people if we have you, Taylor, and maybe another one just to have a failover or at least someone as a backup? So how many people do you see are needed here? I'm guessing this
Yeah.
if we need to extend something or add something manually or clean things up on the YAS side, but yeah, that was my question. So what's the requirement for those people? So what do you see here as needed for such a, because we also have GCP knowledge, so that's why I'm asking. So at least we also deploy a lot of stuff on GCP. Maybe we can help out with some stuff. It depends what exactly you're looking for.
Yeah. So two things. I agree that I'm not broadly trying to just like get a lot of people, like just everyone, access for the sake of access. The um, there's the more people to deal with the infrastructure, um, either management or issues that come along with like the concourse development, right? The development of concourse. And then there's also going to be like, and again, this is a proposal before the proposal. So like take that with the right grain of salt when I'm saying this, right? Like, but I talked with some of the other working group leads on this, and there is a desire to move to a shared instance. The request from folks would be like, can the concourse group host that instance? I don't think that's crazy. I actually also think that that's useful to have a shared thing that we're talking about in uh, operationally and whatnot, and kind of encountering our own not having to go take it off to the other places we use and deploy concourse in broader senses to understand uh, larger use cases and have kind of that multi-tenancy within the project itself can kind of be an extra good check before things go to the masses as they were. Um, that aspect of infrastructure management, I do think that we want to think about, and this is going to be in the proposal, giving some access to the infra for 1 to 2 people from those groups in case there are CI issues they run into managing, like especially if they need to add new workers or things like that, that for their own use cases that we want them to be able to roll and change and make us less of a bottleneck. That's something I want to think about. Again, this is the proposal before the proposal, but that's how I see that being a larger group of people than is like the I don't know, less than 5 people probably need access to concourse development. More than one slash well, one entity, but less than like 5. I think is fine for the project's sake right now. I think a lot of the and we'll have some interesting other conversations as we start to focus on the CFF's cost of like obviously our cost is going to grow larger from the multi-tenancy aspect because we'll start absorbing that, but there also might be ways that we're requested to reduce, and I haven't spent enough time on this, like our spend that's like specific to Concourse's development. I'm not sure there's a huge amount of wiggle room we have and need to there, but it's worth looking at and grokking the places we're spending money in the project right now on specifically infrastructure, GCP. But the picture will get funny as soon as we start. We'll need to split the picture. Let me rephrase as we start to host other folks' CI. And again, I'm talking just the Concourse instance, not like any kinds of environments that they deploy through the Concourse instance, right? That's still going to go to their own environments wherever they are.
Just probably one last question here, but how does the infrastructure look like at the moment, which we have provisioned? Let's say the Concourse instance, how big it is the Kubernetes based on? I guess that's what we have, and yeah, just thinking about what we have even at the moment.
Oh, how big is it? I don't know how big it is. It's not, I wouldn't say it's large, right? Like it's a handful of nodes. Right. I'd have to go double check, but it's
Yeah, I think it's less than 10 nodes. I
less than
think.
10 nodes, and we have one Windows worker attached to it as well. And well, that's about it. The rest are temporary environments that the test suites will kick off, right? Or at least they
Yeah.
should be temporary. As with all things. Yeah, and so that's the other thing I want to talk about as we get into this. I know I'm interested in folks' opinion on, do we want this shared instance to be Kubernetes based or do we want it to be Bosch based, depending on like the amount of, as we think of the number of people involved with it and the types of workloads. Like I know a lot of people have Bosch debugging experience, maybe fewer have Kubernetes experience with some of the issues. If we continue with Kubernetes, it's not necessarily a problem, but it does mean we'll want to create maybe a bit more of some obvious paths of how you debug some of the problems you might have if you're outside this working group and running into issues there. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I mean, from an opinion perspective from our side, I think maybe Karin can say more, but from my side at least, we're totally fine with going with the Kubernetes based one. I mean, from a Bosch perspective, we test more than enough on our landscapes every new revision. So if there is something with the Bosch instance, most probably we'll try to help out and yeah, have enough landscapes on which we can test and provide feedback, which with each release, of course.
I don't. So the question is, which orchestrator you should use to deploy this instance, which will host the then executed tests. So since we do both integration tests for Kubernetes and Bosch, I don't think that matters that much. So if you have it hosted on Kubernetes, that's fine, right? Or am I missing something?
No, it should probably be fine. Broadly be fine. It's more about as we think about the extension of other folks being co-administrators to some degree, right? Participants in the system that can help, solve for themselves. Picking a dial tone that everyone's familiar with regards to orchestrator is a consideration, but it's not something to say like, yeah, that's because mostly they're going to be speaking Concourse, not speaking kubectl or Bosch 99% of the time for the types of issues that they'd be encountering. And I'm unaware of fundamental differences in how those two operate. If someone can that would be concerned about for the types of workloads we put in these things. I don't think there is one, but yeah. Cool. So I have an action item to do this part. I'm getting a lot of actions, but then as I do these, it should now become much more shared things. I'm gonna give Taylor access to the accounts to GSP account. Cool. That is all I had on those. Oh, yep, that's the wrong set. Well,
Yep, it's
I just made
okay.
it look like I was really not getting anything done the last few weeks, even though I just added new ones. Great. No.
There we go.
Okay. I think that's all I had on those three subjects. I know we kind of layered in the shared concourse instance, or by we I mean me. Is there anything else folks wanted to talk about in that space before we maybe moved on to the roadmap? Taylor, can I have you lead the roadmap conversation?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know.
Do you want to take over screen share for that?
Yep, I just opened it up. Screen sharing. Just making sure I pick the right window here. Yeah, that one. Allow. All right. Does that look fine?
Yes, it does.
All right, cool. Yeah, roadmap stuff, it's still just been hacking away at the being able to make an ARM release. It's mostly been a lot of kind of tooling work. So I've been working away a lot on the OCI build task and the registry image, just making sure pieces can fit together and trying to make kind of an optimized build process. Because just as an example, the Concourse dev image was actually already we were already generating a multi-arch image, but it takes over an hour for that image to build due to the emulation stuff, but there's like some optimizations that could be done in that file. And so trying to take that learning and pass it on to like all the like resource types and everything like that. But yeah, I needed to kind of expand some of the tooling. Like the OCI build tasks, for example, can't load a multi-arch image. So there's like stuff like that working on just to improve so that way can actually have an efficient build process that doesn't take like an hour plus because uh it's doing compilation processes on an emulator. So
Yeah, that's
that's kind
always
of
a
where
dream.
that's yeah, exactly. But yeah, so it's pretty much just that's like taking up all of my headspace pretty much. And that's yeah, the roadmap really hasn't changed since last time. I don't think it's pretty much just been sitting here. So I've been doing that and then also just making sure still make time for reviewing PRs and doing other stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much the roadmap right now. That's where it sits. Cool.
I have
Any open issues or
question.
PR?
I have questions. So this is roadmap for V8, right?
Yeah, for VA. Oh yeah, there's some actually, I guess some VA specific stuff. Actually, I guess another thing I could point out too, actually, let me do that, is there are some folks in the community who are helping with some V8 stuff. I have that over trying to keep all my pull requests managed over here. But yeah, there's some folks here working on stuff. I think these two right here, the return invalid identifiers instead of warning. Actually, is that you guys? No, that's this
Yeah,
guy here.
no, that's from us.
Oh,
That's
this
another colleague from the team. Yeah, we'll probably have him in the call sometime soon.
lovely. Cool. Yeah, so yeah, he's working on that. So that's you guys. That's part of that stuff. And then there's this other one too, I believe, which yeah, this guy working on some of yeah, the valid pipeline validation stuff as well. Yeah, I think for FISA pipeline. But yeah, so that's some of that stuff going on there. And there is another person who they submitted an RFC about pipeline identity tokens, um, accepted that after fleshing it out with them over a week, and he started, yeah, basically implementing it. There's some weirdness around passing some information into it, specifically like job step names and stuff like that. But yeah, that's a new feature, which is kind of nice. But yeah, that's in there. That's not V8 specific or anything like that. And then yeah, I think that's mostly it. I think I'm trying to remember what else there is. in that V8 discussion post that I had there. Do-
I haven't checked that since last week.
Yeah, so yeah, it's mostly just this actually bring stuff like, oh, there's the database migration stuff. Need to prioritize actually doing that at some point, but that's going to come after the ARM stuff. Like, so I guess stuff in here is what will end up being top of mind. At least once the ARM stuff is done. This one is just kind of addressing the ARM stuff. The fact that we're going to just use Wolfie base, which is from Chain Guard, using that for the base of the majority of our images. Or pretty much I think all of our images, what we're going to try and migrate to. And then, yeah, some stuff here like deprecating this field, the build logs to maintain. Oh yeah, there was a PR there that got rid of this old templating style that I didn't even know was a thing that you could use in pipelines. It's like the Go template syntax, which I'm guessing was probably just like the team's like first stab at doing pipeline templating stuff, probably in like versions like 1 to 3 of Concourse or something like that.
Yeah, I think we stole it from Sriracha's original other templating language at one point in time. YAML templating language that I can't remember the name for. But
Mm,
yeah, curlies were the start of that one, and that's how I think we got the double parens to differentiate between those two. So then these became much more sticky.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's all gone now. Gone now. That PR, I got rid of it, removed all the tests for it and everything. So that's a bunch of old code that's gone, which is nice. Yeah, and then the stuff for returning an error instead of a warning for the invalid identifier thing, which was something that there was an RC for it back in like 2020 or 2021. And then yeah, so people have been seeing those warnings for probably about 5 years. Assume most people would have gone around it. And then yeah, that's happening. Yeah, I don't know if we'll end up doing this one, switching the YAML packaging, because I know that's going to be a big thorny mess most likely. So that might be more than we can chew off within the major release. But yeah, we'll see. This one's definitely out of everything is probably the most like in quotes aspirational one. Um, but yeah, not one that I'm gonna break my back trying to get that in. But everything else is mostly straightforward and like this is definitely gonna happen. But then all the other stuff is either like in progress or like easy enough to do that I'm like, not stressing about it. So yeah, that's all the V8 breaking stuff and kind of where they're standing right now.
Okay, great. So maybe just to elaborate a bit my questions. So since the more or less the general idea is to make the container D the default runtime, and once
Yes.
and stuff with it, we noticed that it's not as stable as Guardian in some aspects. So particularly, I reported an issue for that. Is it logical to announce switching the default to something that has an issue that we still don't have the root cause analyzed? Just wondering. So do you see this as a blocker for this announcement, or because at least
Maybe not the maybe not the announcement, right? Like I think we can still keep it on the roadmap as the aspirational thing to do, but I agree that we should be considering like we should keep raising and digging through those issues, and then as we get closer to cutting and moving
Mhm.
like shipping V8, we can make a determination of like how many open issues do we currently have about container D like in these particular ways and be like, is this the right time to cut it over? And if the answer is no, like we can push that to V9, right? And we don't have to be as lengthy between these things as we have been till now. But like I think that's what you're getting at, and I agree that we before we change the default, ship the change default in a version, we should make an assessment. We make that essentially a oh gosh, a requirement of like our decision making process as we cut V8. It's like
yeah,
what
I'm guessing that most people don't even register this because they either maintain their concourse when there are no running jobs or some others, or at least their jobs are not as emitting of build logs, etc. But it's still something that my biggest concern here is if it's something in concourse, we will probably be able to debug it, or at least they will, because Yeah, but if it's an upstream issue with containerd, then switching and announcing it might be a bit let's say premature. But yeah, in any case, I'm guessing that Guardian would still be supported. You just need to manually add the runtime in your configuration, so people will have a workaround for this. But then also it might be announced that this is possibly possible to break some stuff for people, or at least announce as a possible breaking change as well.
Yeah, for sure. We should make it loud. They do have a way around it, and we should also, again, make sure we're assessing like how many open issues do we know about just from our own usage of it, and be like, if it's significant enough, we should not change the default over yet. But that's, I think we got enough time still to delay that call one way or another and work through those issues you're talking about.
Yep, exactly. And thanks, yeah, Derek. That's exactly how I'm thinking about it right now. It's very much like if we can switch to containerd and we know there isn't some big open glaring issues, then awesome. But yeah, right now want to keep that aspirational flag in the sand ahead of us, pointing in that direction. But then yeah, Callum, we'll definitely make a proper judgment call if we're feeling it's not like it's not up to the standards that we want to push on people. Then yeah, we'll push it down to like V9 instead and keep hacking away at it, making it better.
Are we tagging the issues we're seeing for that in a way so it's easy for us to just slurp them up of like,
I think I did make a milestone. Am I good? Did I make a milestone? There's a milestone. There's stuff in there.
yeah,
Clearly not a lot. Oh
that's
yeah,
fine.
only have some of these things. All right, I haven't been diligent about throwing stuff in there, but I probably should.
Yeah, what I'd want to do is especially start tagging issues for things we know for changes that we're making, like the containerd stuff, and be like, this is the list of things we're assessing. It doesn't necessarily need to mean we have to fix them all, depending on the scale or type of the issue, right?
Hmm.
Before changing the default. But it'd be good if we didn't have to type the word containerd in this
Yeah.
issue and then and then look. Um, yeah, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'll go through and actually make sure and throw some issues in that V8 milestone just to make it easier to track. Because this post here is mostly just like a big informational dump, but it'll be nice to actually have everything tracked. So I'll do that.
And Colin, or folks, this is also a general call out of if you're seeing issues related to the types of changes we're trying to make for V8, feel free to tag that preemptively as you're finding them so that we don't have to do post recording of or association of that.
Hmm. Cool. Anything else like I guess project priority wise, like in this vein, that anyone wants to bring up or talk about?
More or less from my side, I think if we should probably look at the roadmap items, something which we can assist with, let's say, where should our focus be, let's say.
Good question. I haven't really thought about how to split up work or anything like that. Like I have these two items in the backlog. Theoretically, these could be things to work on. I don't remember where these are at, or I know what this is. This would be pretty low. This ptrace one would be low priority. Um, this one I can't even remember what's happening with the. Oh, is this the CNI thing? Yes, this is the CNI thing. Yes. So this, I don't even know. If there's a new version of CNI, then that'd be something potentially to test out. That's pretty small. But yeah, I haven't really groomed the rest of this backlog. Like there's a bunch of stuff I threw in here at some point, but it's not in priority order or anything like that. And even your guys' issue, actually, I don't even know if that's in here. That should be in here. Yeah.
I'm not sure. Maybe Colin can say if he's there. He knows the name. But yeah,
Yeah.
overall, I guess
I
if
don't see
we
it.
want to help out, that's the place to look at the roadmap, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I can try and have this a bit better groomed. Sorry?
What's the filter that puts it in the no status or puts it into the roadmap here on the project board?
Just when you're on an issue, Like I'll just click on one here.
Yeah.
Just projects over
project-
here.
oh,
Yeah, you just dump it there, and then when it has when you initially add it, it'll just dump it in no status, which I'm using as kind of like an icebox.
Yeah, I think
If we-
that's fine.
Yeah,
It hasn't been like whatever thought enough. Second question is, do you need certain levels of permissions on the Concourse repo to do that project change on an issue?
I don't
Could one
know.
of you open that an issue and see if you have the powers to do that? I'm interested because
Yeah,
I
I'm gonna
know
check.
Taylor and I will have too many powers to verify that.
Yeah,
It's like, I don't know. I have the super buttons that say I can delete the whole world. That's not.
yeah. I can nuke everything right now. Woo.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't seem to have permissions to do
I
so.
just added an issue, so I guess I have it.
yeah.
Taylor, there's settings in projects
See if
you can have
permissions
it
to do
auto
it.
add based on like labels or other things like that.
Uh,
It's been a minute since I've done GitHub project administration.
yeah, it's one of those things that I rarely dive into as well, so I'll have to explore it as well. Even this kind of goes back actually to even just how we in general want to, I guess,
Yes.
structure permissions
Yeah.
the project and everything. Because right now I think there's just a general like there's us and then there's basically like people we can give the contributor label to, which
Yeah.
I don't think gives you much except it's like you're part of the Concourse org and that's kind of it. I don't think it actually gives you permissions to do much else besides that. But yeah.
Yeah. I think you and I should talk a little bit so we can do something. I know we want to get to the CFF's tooling, but like I think we have a small enough set of people and whatever that we should do something like just like a GitHub team. Like nothing's mucking with permissions, right? Just a
Yeah.
GitHub gives the type of permissions across the org right now and like kick that automation can just a little bit further while this is going
Yeah.
so we can get
Mm.
ourselves and people out of the or just into a reasonable spot on
Yeah,
types of permissions.
definitely that would be helpful for us to help out a bit more. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else folks wanted to chat about?
Just for confirmation, yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So we can work on stuff in a backlog and the stuff with no status. But I didn't get if. So we need to complete all of them to release V8, or
No.
there is no.
The backlog is always going to be kind of like an infinite list of just like tasks and
Okay.
stuff that can or could be done at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always going to be like that. But then the V8 milestone will actually be the concrete place where it's like this is all the stuff we want to get done before we cut this release. So we'll always use
Okay.
milestones for like what is the finite list of things we want to get in this release, and then the roadmap is always just continuous treadmill of stuff.
Okay.
All right, cool, good question.
Finish your infinite list, Taylor, and then you can release your software. That's more agile development I've ever heard.
Right.
So just to be on the same page, if we're actively working on something, we should add it to the roadmap at least, and maybe discuss it on this meeting, or how do you see that?
Yeah, that would be good. That would be very good actually, just to help keep each other in sync here. I'm not sure if that's the best way to do this. I've never operated in like this very like distributed, super asynchronous fashion before. Like I've been on async teams back at like VMware and Pivotal, but we still had stand-ups every day. I don't need to have stand-ups with you guys every day, right? But yeah, I guess trying to throw it in backlog here would be useful so everyone kind of has an idea of what's happening, who's working on something already. Um, yeah, yeah.
I think that is a very reasonable starting approach. And then if we find problems with that, like when you start with nothing, having something, right, is the first best thing, and then we can change it from there, and that's fine. So what I think I heard though is that Taylor and I need to find a way to make sure at least you three are permissioned in a way to add things to this roadmap, and do a bit more with regards to repo, like PRs and so on and so forth. Issue management. Is that essentially it?
Yeah,
Roadmap?
I think so. Issue management, being able to add stuff like manage the project. I'm writing all this down too. Yeah, add stuff to the project, even if being able to maybe self-assign ourselves to issues. GitHub does have that feature, right, where you can say like I'm assigned to this issue. So being able to do stuff like that. So okay, let's try and make that happen.
I don't know if you can inspect the user. So as I mentioned, I was able to add that to the roadmap here. So I think I was
Oh,
added.
you did. Yeah, right
Yeah,
there at the bottom, right? This guy.
yeah.
Missing build blocks container D. Nice. Okay, cool. So you guys can already do that.
Yeah, I can do it too.
Doesn't have it. So I think the only thing that I know of that I'm added and he's not is, so I am a contributor, which, as you mentioned, doesn't give you that much. Instead, just a batch in Discord. But I was also invited to an organization a while back, and I joined it. I think that Zetsu, which is developing the other feature, also had it. So maybe that's something that also might give us access regarding this aspect specifically. That
Another organization in GitHub? We only have one org in GitHub.
no, yeah, I think it's the Concourse organization, but so I was expecting it to be automated, but I had to ping Theo a bunch of times in the past, and I think another guy manually added me to this organization. I can check my email and maybe give you a bit more details on what exactly I joined, because it was a couple of months ago and I don't remember the specifics. But that's the only thing that might be different from between me and Christo. I don't know,
Yeah,
Christo.
maybe you can share it in the Discord CFF group channel.
Yeah,
Yeah, do
So
that.
yeah,
yeah, okay. Were
great.
you added as contributor in the governance repo, or
No, I don't think so. My
That
work was mainly to have you
That
guys
thing's
there.
defunct. It's got lies in it at this point.
yeah. Actually, I'm pretty sure
Mm.
I archived the governance repo too.
Yeah,
But yeah, don't use that.
Looking at teams, the team stuff is still active. And sorry, you might be in. I can find people. Hold on, I'll take a look at Alan. Alan, what's your GitHub name?
it's compar with, I think it's with a 3. I can send it in chat.
Yeah. No, now I remember. Now I remember. Let's see. You're on one team. The team you're on is all. Okay. So, but Risto, what's your
Yeah, I'm sending that in the chat as well. Probably it's gonna be easier.
great success? Thank you. Okay, so you're not in the Concourse organization. That's why. So if
Yeah,
you're in
that's
the
the
org or in the org, it looks like that's sufficient to give the perms that Colin currently has. So that is a very low effort, not expensive. I'm gonna just add you right now. And then Ivan, do you already have permissions or no?
Yeah, I have permissions to do it.
So
I'm inviting. Oh God, sorry, heck, my one password keeps quitting. Actually, in some way that's like tripping me out, and then it makes me sad because I don't want to re-authenticate to my authentication system. But here we are. Here I am. When it works, it's great. All right, and I'm adding you to the all team. And that's sent. Okay. So, Christo, you should have an
great.
invitation.
Perfect. Yep, just
All right.
Thanks.
Of course. Other things.
Nothing from my side.
All right. That's it then.
Great. Thanks for meeting, guys, and yeah, see you next month.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Bye for now.
Thanks.